Hello! Okay, let's talk Harry Potter and red herrings. So the chapters I'm looking at today are the Death Day Party and the Writing on the Wall, which is a really interesting set of chapters to have right next to each other. Because of course we have this one thing leading into the other, and the presence of the one thing allows for our characters to recognize the presence of the other. Now, red herrings. I'm going to tell you the dictionary definition of a red herring. And any dictionary definitions I'm telling you are coming from the Oxford English Dictionary. Like the really big set, because I actually happen to have access to that at the current time, which is awesome. Okay, red herring. To attempt to divert attention from the real question, hence red herring, a subject intended to have this effect. Pretty old term, and we still use it today because you might have heard of red herrings, and it's particularly that. It's this thing that you think is important, and it turns out later on it was actually there to distract you from what was going on. And these chapters have that in abundance. Okay, so what we actually have in this chapter is Rowling's beautiful introduction to different characters, different activities, different ideas, different aspects of the world, actions, and how the characters are affecting the world and what's actually going on. AKA, we get a lot of new stuff in this set of chapters, so we get a bit of information overload, as it were. Which, at this point in time, is actually a concern for us, because between the two chapters, of course, we get the petrification of Mrs. Norris, and this terrifying message on the wall that we think might be written in blood. And in a lot of ways I think it probably is, considering the murmurings that Harry's hearing before they find the writing on the wall. So suddenly our stakes have gone from maybe Harry's crazy to what's going on and how dangerous is this thing? Because of course no one right off the bat thinks that Mrs. Norris is alive. Everyone's looking at that cat like that cat is dead. Great. And this message of the Chamber of Secrets being open automatically prompts Malfoy to say that mudbloods are next. So we right in this moment have this sudden fear of, oh god, something is actually going on. It's not just Harry going crazy. There is something that Harry is hearing that has agency in this world and is choosing now to start using that agency, and apparently in a negative way. Like, we are in terror because we now are aware that this thing is dangerous, and we want to know why it's dangerous, what it is, and who it's dangerous to. Who are these enemies of the air? And Malfoy is pretty accurate when he points out the Muggleborns. So we suddenly have this concern of just, oh geez, we're in trouble. And we didn't have that before. It didn't seem like we had that before. But we have that. It's become abundantly apparent. Now the trouble might not be permanent, but there is some concern that it could be. Especially since none of the profs seem to know what's going on. And the fact that it can't be just perfectly easily magically reversed. Like, it can be magically reversed, but it's going to take some time. You need the mandrakes, we need them full grown, we need a potion. So this is suddenly becoming like a long-term project we have to be aware of. Which means we're going to be in that state of terror for a while. We're going to be in this limbo state of, is it safe, is it not safe? Are the characters I like in danger, are they not? That we have to be aware of. So what we actually start doing as readers is even retroactively trying to figure out hints to what's going on. Like, we want to figure this out just as much as the characters do. Because we do have this investment in the characters. This isn't something that's popped up in the first book where we don't have investment. Like, we're now knowing these people, and we know that Hermione's a mudblood. So we know there is that at least direct concern for our main characters. So we want to figure out what's going on. The problem then is, of course, this information overload we've received. We've suddenly got all this information about all these new aspects that we have no idea where we should be looking. Because we know there's got to be important clues. We know Rowling's laying it out. We've seen that in the previous book. But we don't know what's important. We don't know any of the things that she's given us, whether they're important or not, or how important they are. Because, again, through the previous book, we've learned that even small things can actually be really, really important to the storyline as a whole in the long run. So, we want to try and figure that out. But she's not making it easy for us. I'm going to read because it's practically a page long. We find out things like Pepper Up Potion, Quick Spell, Squibs, Vanishing Cabinets, Death Day Parties, The Headless Hunt, Moaning Myrtle haunts the toilet in the girls' bathroom, Peeves is different from other ghosts because he's actually a poltergeist, Draco seems to be enjoying the threat that's going on, Petrification can be healed by mandrakes, Snape continues to be an a-hole, Ginny is a cat lover and very upset, Justin Finch Fletchley is now scared of Harry, Hermione is book crazy, Ron can't write long enough history assignments, the history teacher Binns is a ghost and so boring that everyone falls asleep in his class, the Chamber of Secrets is a legend, we also get the story of the 4 founders including the falling out of Slytherin. We get the legend of the beast meant to destroy those unworthy of magic, controlled by the heir of Slytherin. We find out the school's been checked for this chamber and none has been found. All the students are scared of the possibility of it anyways. Harry hasn't told his friends the Sorting Hat almost put him in Slytherin. Colin is tiny. Filch has been guarding the site of the attack. The spiders of the school are acting weird. Ron is deathly afraid of living spiders. Fred once turned Ron Teddy into a spider when Ron broke his toy broom. The water on the floor during the attack is missing. It came from Myrtle's girls' bathroom. Myrtle gets overdramatic. Percy is either worried about Ginny or his own chances of getting the head boy position. Ron's wand is still broken. They think Draco knows what's going on. In order to find out if he does, they have to break like 50 school rules. The instructions for this Polyjuice Potion are in the restricted section of the library, and they need a teacher's permission to get into that restricted section. Like I said, that is a lot of information, and while it's not thrown at you quite that quickly, it's over 2 chapters, it's a lot to dig through. Because, again, you know not all of this is important, but you know what is important is going to be actually really important. The question is, how do we figure this out? Generally, when we are reading a book, for the most part we go along with what the characters think are important. Simply because that is the information we're going to get most of. Because of course the book is going to follow the characters. You very rarely have a narrator that's just going along like, but they were way off the beaten track because they really should have been looking at this thing. Because an author wants to keep their readers in suspense, just as much as they want to keep their characters in suspense. So generally, we go along with our characters. But again, through the last book, we are aware that these kids are 12. They're not exactly Sherlock Holmes. And even Sherlock Holmes made mistakes. So what actually happens here is not only are we attempting to dig through all these red herrings to find the important pieces of information, we also suddenly doubt that our characters are capable of this. We look at what they're looking at, and some things we can agree with, considering we can make connections. Malfoy has already proved that he seems to be enjoying all this madness going on, this tension. So yeah, the fact that he's not afraid says that maybe he knows a little more about what's going on. So maybe we can trust the characters in regards to that. But we also know that they're probably missing a lot of things, simply because they've hooked onto this one thing when we've been given an entire page worth of just me rapid-fire writing of possible important information. So we know they've got to be missing something, and we ourselves actually want to try and figure out what that is, so that we can get connections. One of the ways we do this, of course, is, again, just like what the students do. We've got making the connections, A and B. Maybe that's correlation and not causation. We have to be aware of that. But we also then have, we should investigate. It's not jump to a conclusion, they figured out that doesn't work, so we need to investigate. So we've got connection investigating. We've also got investigating the actual site of everything that's going on, and that provides us with a couple apparently important pieces of information. For example, the water, the fact that it was there and then it wasn't, draws their attention, and the spiders are acting weird. Because this is another thing we need to pay attention to. Animals tend to have an instinct in regards to things that are going on. So if you suddenly have animals acting weird, you need to pay attention. And the spiders are leaving. This should be a concern, because rats flee ships that are going to sink. So, spiders are fleeing the school. What do the spiders know that we don't? And again, the kids are picking up on this. This becomes something they should be aware of. But they get distracted because we suddenly find out, again, all this other information about Ron being scared of spiders and this childhood story and these spiders and potions all the time, but they're dead. And so it suddenly becomes this like, heh, and we look the other way and you're just like, no, 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 no. Go back. You need to check this out further. And so this becomes important for us because we want these kids to figure this out. Because we can feel it when they're so close and you're like, no, 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 no. Pay attention to this. And they're sort of wandering off the other way and you're like, that's probably important too, but you also need to pay attention to this. And when they start doing that, you're suddenly like, yes! Because you and the characters have caught up to each other. But you're still looking for more. You want to figure out what the students are missing. Right now, maybe it's because we're older than them. Maybe it's because we actually know the entire story, so we're looking for the other things. Ginny. And the sheer number of times she's actually mentioned in these two chapters alone. So, we start looking and digging through the red herrings. But it's the characters figuring this out that's going to make the big decisions for how the story goes. And I think they can figure this out. But I think in the long run they're also missing some of the really neat little hints that Rowling's putting in here. And I think those hints are actually for people who, again, are rereading this, because you're not going to pick it up on your first read-through, because you are just as unknowledgeable as Harry, Ron, and Hermione are. But on another read-through, we're actually getting a lot more hints than we think we are. But we're still getting a lot of red herrings. So let's keep going, because we've got some interesting questions coming up, like Dobby's disappeared up to this point in time, but he won't be gone long, and what the heck is a polyjuice potion? So, until then, I'm going to keep reading, and I hope you guys do too. Have a good day.